Hi, I'm Ginger Riddle. I am here with Rebecca Hollister, candidate for Leavenworth City Commission. Rebecca, welcome.
Hi,
Thank
thank
you for
you.
joining
Thanks for
us.
having me.
Tell us what skills, experience, and background do you bring that would benefit the City Commission and the residents of Leavenworth?
Yeah, absolutely. I have lived in Leavenworth since I was about 9 years old. My dad was in the army, and so my he retired here, and my parents still live here out in the county. I'm a graduate of Leavenworth High School, and then I went on to Georgetown University in DC, and I majored in political economy and math, and minored in theology. And then I decided to come back home to continue to better my community and just because I love it here. And I got a job as treasurer of USD 207. During that time, I completed my MBA with the University of Kansas. And now I'm actually doing human resources for USD 207. So still the same place, but a different job. I'm involved with a lot of community organizations. I'm involved with LV Arts, with CASA, with the Leavenworth County Humane Society, and I really think that I can bring to the table a good knowledge of economics with my bachelor's degree as well as my MBA. And also, I've had a lot of experience with planning things in different organizations and trying to help different organizations run, helping them through financial crises and getting those off the ground. I also do have a small business out of my home, so I am somewhat familiar too with kind of the challenges that they face. And so I think I am certainly a people person, but I also have a really good command of numbers and kind of what it takes to get an organization operating smoothly. And really, the city is kind of a giant organization with a lot of moving parts. I think my background will help me coordinate all those moving pieces and help bring good governance to the city of Leavenworth.
Okay. What do you see as the most important challenges facing the city today, and how do you propose to address those?
So, economic development is a huge challenge, and I tie that with taxes. Part of the reason that the taxes are so high is because things like sales tax revenue are decreasing because some of our businesses are not generating as much revenue. Um, Increasing economic development. So what I mean by that is bringing in more businesses into the fold. That's going to help widen the overall tax base, which will decrease the burden on individual residents. I'm so sorry. That is not professional. I got hair in my mouth. So sorry, YouTube. Um, um, Downtown revitalization is super important. That's our local community. That's where we bring in tourism. That's going to help a lot as well. We need to look at codes that we have downtown to see if our codes are serving us well or if they're unnecessary red tape that's preventing small businesses from joining us here in Leavenworth. We also need to continue to beautify the downtown to make it a more attractive place for people to visit and shop at. The second component is more industrial type businesses. So we have our business and technology park, which has stood empty since it was built in 2018. Now, of course, they couldn't have predicted COVID. That threw a wrench in a lot of things, but we certainly, that empty land is not serving us. So we either need to do something else with that park or get businesses into there. And partnering with different community organizations to try and solve some of the problems that park has, or deciding as a group that it's best to go a different direction with that park, will definitely help increase the revenue base for the entire city. So that's a huge issue. Another huge issue for me is public safety. This includes our roads and sidewalks, as well as things like the fentanyl crisis. So it's a wide variety of things. We need more transparency and communication for residents who have problems to report. For example, there's been some issues at Sixth and Walnut that individuals have been to city commission meetings multiple times, and unfortunately, they said they haven't. Last I heard as the date of this interview, they said they hadn't really heard back. So we need more transparency on that front. Um, Things like the fentanyl crisis, that is plaguing our community. We need to support our law enforcement in figuring out ways to handle that. And part of all of those things also can include making sure that we have plenty of safe spaces and activities for children, teenagers, and young adults so that they avoid getting into trouble and avoid getting into some of those drug-related issues and instead have a safe place to thrive. And then lastly, on my list is affordable housing. We need to make sure housing is affordable at all stages. That includes renters, first-time homeowners, people who've been here for years, and then finally seniors need to have independent living options as well. So those are some of my main priorities for what I would be focusing on as city commissioner.
Okay. Are there some ways that you've engaged with City Hall or residents to address community issues already?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, I've been to a lot of the city commission meetings. I'm also canvassing door to door right now and talking to residents about issues that are most important to them. I know in LV Arts we have before talked about things like murals as a way to decrease crime. So I've been a part of that. Also a part of CASA, and the safety of children's a huge issue with CASA. So I help out with them as well. And I think that the continued communication to residents is super important about just feeling out what they're thinking about issues as well as joining them in different efforts, because people have different priorities, but most of those priorities are wanting to make the city of Leavenworth a safer place to be. So that's super important to me, and I've really enjoyed being able to go door to door and be on the ground talking to residents about things that matter to them.
Okay, what is your perspective on the current state of city services, public safety, roads, parks, and where you see room for improvement? I know you've touched on this already, but if you have
Yeah.
anything else to add.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I think a couple that I want to highlight. I know that there's been a lot of conversations around our solid waste management, garbage pickup services. I think there is room for improvement there. There are plans to build a consolidation station, which is really going to help free up some time and some trucks so that we can have a more consistent service. So I think that's good. I'm a little worried about the price tag, but I think it's a step in the right direction, and I think it's going to be necessary. Roads and sidewalks, I think, is an area where we have a lot of room for improvement. I think in general, people tend to be unhappy with those things, and we have had some brutal winters. Last winter was absolutely brutal, so that is certainly hard on the roads. The sidewalks, there are so many sidewalks that kind of either end randomly or are quite literally uprooted by trees and they end up splitting, and those areas then become inaccessible for particularly disabled individuals. So that's an area where we need improvement. Um, as far as our parks, I think that's a strength of Leavenworth. I think we have some gorgeous parks and some gorgeous services. We have a really nice splash pad. We have a good aquatic center. Um, I've been at Stubby Park a lot for Arts of the Park. That's beautiful there. Pickleball courts. I think that's a huge strength of ours. We just need to make sure that we can maintain it, maintain those same level of services so that they don't become dilapidated in the future. So those are some things I'm thinking of. So we have some strengths and we have some areas that we need to improve, as with every city.
Okay. How should the city approach economic development and job creation in the coming years?
Yeah, it's a good question, especially because there are partner organizations we have, and things are very up in the air with them. Things with Main Street are up in the air. They work downtown. Things with LCDC, we're still providing funding to them, but not as much as they would like, and probably more than others would like. I think when we partner with these organizations, I do think it's important. As far as there's a lot of people who think we should bring it completely in-house, economic development, like just end our funding with these other organizations and just have it strictly be a City of Leavenworth situation. That makes me nervous, the idea of that, because of the kind of when we partner with these organizations right now, they have access to different grants, they have access to different sources of funding that one person internally wouldn't necessarily have. But the thing is, when we partner with these organizations, we need to make sure that we're getting our dollars worth and that our expectations for those organizations match the funding we're giving them. So, for example, if we're only going to give LCDC $100,000, for example, and that's just an example, we need to make sure that we agree with them. Here is what we're expecting, and then ask them, is this feasible with this amount of money? So having that baseline of goals and expectations will help in the future if there are ever conversations about going away from funding those organizations. Then we can have metrics saying, are we getting a return on our investment? Is this profitable? Um, so that's something on my mind. Additionally, we have to keep an eye out because we have a lot of employees in the Leavenworth community that are federal employees. And of course, a lot of those jobs have kind of been up in the air. There's a lot of uncertainty with that. So we need to keep an eye on that and make sure that our unemployment rate does not skyrocket in our community just because of who we are and our ties with the federal government and the federal community. Bringing businesses will help, particularly if we do get businesses in that industrial technology park. But we also need to focus on local development opportunities here as well.
Okay. How would you strengthen relationships between the city commission and other local entities like schools, the county, nonprofits, and business?
Yeah. So I was at a city commission meeting where they met with the county commission and everybody kind of sat down. And I think that's a really good idea. I think that's super important. And I know at that particular meeting, everyone agreed, wow, like this was productive. We should do this regularly. While not having more meetings doesn't always mean that more progress will be made. It's important to have communication with those other entities because, for example, the county also faced budgetary problems, and that kind of trickles down into the city and our considerations on what to put our budget at. So it's super important to maintain communication with them. And then, as far as the schools are concerned, particularly the Leavenworth School District, it's also important that we check in and we see, are they having any sort of safety issues? What are their enrollment numbers? How is that affecting the funding that they get? Because that then in turn affects the children who are graduating and coming in to being members of our community. That's our future. So it's super important that we connect with them as well. So regular communication is key. Not waiting until there's a problem to address something is also key. Being proactive and staying ahead of the game with those other entities is very important. But I am extremely pro cooperation. I think that we all need to work together regardless of party affiliation in order to achieve some pretty lofty goals that I know every entity has.
Okay. Well, what sets you apart from other candidates?
I think my, well, the obvious when people look at candidates is my age, I think, because I am on the younger side. Um, I think that that can actually be a strength for me because I'm kind of going through the process that we talk about so much, where people decide to come here and stay here and raise families and start businesses. That's the kind of life that I'm living right now. I'm currently renting, but I hope to own a home in Leavenworth someday as well. So I think it's a strength. Kind of on the humorous side too, I will have to reap what I sow for a very long time. So whatever I do, as a city commissioner will affect me for quite a long time. But I also think that I bring sort of a unique opportunity to coordinate among different departments and have a wide variety of understanding of different things. I understand the workings of a school district. I understand how organizations are run. I understand what's needed to bring everybody to the table. So I think that's going to help me out as well. And hopefully just an enthusiasm. I mean, I'm so excited for this opportunity and this chance to do good for the city of Leavenworth.
Hey, thank you so much for joining us.
Absolutely.
Is there anything else you would like our listeners to hear?
The only thing is, any further questions, I do have a website. It's votehollister.com. I have a contact page there. My inbox is always open. And I really hope that everybody can tune in. I'm on TikTok, I'm on Facebook. I do a series called City in 60 where I summarize city commission meetings in 60 seconds or less. So I hope everybody tunes into that to just be aware. And then finally, I hope everybody votes on November 4th. So that's the main thing. But thanks
Okay,
so much for having me. I appreciate it.
thank you.